I see what I've done. Hi there. Well, welcome to everyone from Walk the Road Baptist Church and anyone else who be watching. This is a special interview. I've got my really good friend Terry Esau here, and I first met Terry on a bus in Atlanta, Georgia, in more peaceful days at the Christian Resources exhibition. I was representing my publishers. Terry was there promoting his wonderful books, and we just happened to be sitting together on a bus, and I thought I was really nervous, and Terry made me feel a lot better actually by the time I got there. So I'm very grateful to him, and we've been good friends ever since. So it's great to have you here, Terry.
It's great to be here. Just two guys on a bus chewing the fat. Is that chewing the fat? Is that a term that you understand on the other side of the pond?
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you live in Minneapolis?
I live in Minneapolis. It's sunny and warm today, although if you've been following the news, you know that there have been fires here and a lot of racial tension. It's been a very interesting week here in Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, before we get to that, can you tell us a little about your background? Because you're a fascinating person, and I'd love everyone to find out how fascinating you are.
You know, it's interesting. My wife doesn't find me as fascinating as you do. No, yeah, so I've been in the music business. When I was right out of college, I bought an old bank building, leveraged myself financially to the hilt, and I started writing and producing music for TV commercials. And over the years, I ended up being able to write music for McDonald's and Pepsi and Harleys and Hondas and Target and cat litter and, you know, you name it. I think I did a few thousand of those. I got to work with everybody from Prince, being from Minneapolis,
Wow.
to Amy Grant. I did a Target Christmas campaign with Amy Grant. I don't know, do you know who Alice Cooper is?
Oh, I love Alice Cooper, yeah.
Well, I did a commercial with Alice Cooper, and I got to work with Jim Henson on some Sesame Street stuff. So it's been a very, very varied career musically that, you know, has kind of been all across the gamut of styles and feels. But yeah, it was really fun. Then I started getting a little disenchanted. You know, I was getting called to do a lot of herbicide and pesticide commercials and stuff, all kinds of things. And I just thought, you know, maybe I should start looking for something else to do. And in the middle of that, I started writing stories. And then I'd get invited to go tell the stories. And then some people would say, hey, are your stories collected in a book somewhere? And I go, why would they be in a book? I'm a jingle writer, I write music, not words. But eventually I sent some of my stories to some publishers and got a few offers. And that started me on a whole different career. And then my career went from music to writing words and speaking. And then I met this dude on a bus. And yeah. And now I'm in another thing where I started a nonprofit called Free Bikes for Kids. And we've given away almost 100,000 bicycles to kids in need now. Actually, we're thinking about launching a chapter of our nonprofit in London.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it'll be fun. We'll see what happens. Come hang out with you.
Absolutely. There's a place for you to stay here, and we'll be down there to see at the launch as well. That's cool. Fantastic. Well, you're in Minneapolis. It's big in the news over here. Can you tell us what the situation is at the minute?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm assuming most people have heard about George Floyd and how this officer took him down and kneeled on his neck for, I don't know, 8 or 9 minutes, and he died. So that has just sparked riots, starting here in Minneapolis, and now it's spread all. I think I heard this morning there are like 140 cities in the U.S. had riots or protesting, not all riots, I guess. But yeah, it's buildings have been burning. You know, we're basically on lockdown. Sorry about that. Yeah, and you know, they've been shutting down the freeways late afternoon. It's been crazy. It's
Mm.
I've never seen anything quite well. I guess, come to think of it, we've all seen something like this too many times before.
Mm.
But it seems a little more intense, and maybe it's because it's close. You know, there's burned out buildings less than a mile from my
Mm.
house. So um,
Mm.
yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, it was a terrible thing, that the death of of Mr. Floyd. But what do you think made this become such a massive thing right across the vast country that you're in?
That's a really good question. You know, here's my concern, Simon, is my concern is that, you know, 2 days from now, a week from now, a month from now, we all go back to living the way we were, and, you know, racial stuff gets tamped down again and ignored, and reform doesn't happen. But it does feel a little bit like this is the straw that broke the camel's back, although I think the camel's back has been broken many times, and they've put rods in to shore up the camel's back, I think.
Mm.
Um, so I don't know, but it there almost seems like patience has run out. Um, and I kind of hope that's true. I hope that I hope that the protests don't stop. You know, I hope the looting and the fires stop. But I hope the
Mm.
protests don't stop, because change needs to happen.
Mm.
Um, and I don't think it happens unless the heat stays on.
Mm.
So, and I
Mm.
think we white
Mm.
privileged, uh, you know, it's been really cool to see in Minneapolis that at the crowds, and Mary and I have been down to a couple of these now, and it's all races at these rallies, and that's a good thing to see. You know,
Mm.
I think a lot of us white people are going, silence. Uh, by our silence, we've been complicit, and
Mm.
it's time to stop being silent.
Mm.
I don't know.
Mm.
I'm kind of hopeful.
Mm.
I actually said the other day, I said to somebody, I said, I wish Martin Luther King Jr. was here, because I wonder what, you know, how he would lead right now. And then I said, come to think of it, I'm glad he's not here, because I think he'd be depressed.
Mm.
You know, that what was Selma 65 years ago?
Mm.
It was a long time ago.
It was about that,
And
yeah.
I think he would go, wait, I've been gone for a long time. This is still going on.
Mm.
I think he'd be disappointed in us.
Mm. Mm. And though, because the pictures that we've seen tend to be like the dramatic ones with the burning buildings and everything, but it sounds as if you've been at some rallies that have been peaceful and constructive.
Oh yeah, most of them.
Mm.
Most of them have been peaceful and constructive. I should send you some pictures.
Yeah. Mm.
Uh, Yesterday afternoon, Mary and I went to the the epicenter where
Mm.
George was, you know, where the officer was kneeling on his neck. It's at 38th Avenue in Chicago.
Mm.
Um, and at the intersection, they have um, the whole intersection is around. There's a circumference of flowers and a
Mm.
memorial with flowers in the middle. And
Mm.
people stand around the edge of that, and they sing and they pray. And yeah, it's a somber kind of place. You know, it's almost like people are going there maybe to ask forgiveness,
Mm.
to pray and say, let this change.
Mm.
I don't
Mm.
know. It's one of the most beautiful memorials I think I've
Mm.
ever seen, because it was very organic, and
Mm.
yeah.
Mm. I mean, I've often been interested in the language of lament that we get, particularly from the Old Testament and the Psalms and the Book of Lamentations. And does there seem to be that aspect of it in this memorial that you've been to?
Yeah, definitely there. I actually just heard something yesterday about a sermon from a local pastor here, and he was talking about too often the white culture, you know, we jump in and want to fix things. And he said, without lament, we don't enter in from here. So so we're just coming in, you know, to fix things, and it's like we need to be silent for a second and lament what's happening.
Yeah.
So I don't, maybe that's going to happen this time. It seemed to me like that's what I felt at 38th in Chicago yesterday. You know, it's interesting. I got I think I shared with you, Simon, the video that I did using a song that I wrote, and then all the visuals of the past week here. On Saturday morning, I got on my bike and I just rode down Lake Street, where all, you know, the epicenter of all this stuff that's happening. And I'm passing burnt out buildings. And I thought I was going down there to take pictures and video of the carnage. And all of a sudden, I saw hundreds and hundreds of people walking toward it with brooms and dustpans. And I mean, literally, it was an army of people cleaning up the streets and cleaning up helping clean up the broken glass in all these windows. And about halfway through my bike ride and my tour, I stopped taking pictures of the damage and started taking pictures and video of the people who were cleaning up. And I thought, this is a really important part of the story.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's why in the video that I did, I ended it with people sweeping and cleaning up, you know. So I hope that's a metaphor that we're getting out our racial prejudice brooms or whatever, and we're sweeping up the broken glass of our history. And let's throw some of that stuff away and rebuild and put new windows on these governmental structures, on our police departments. Let's put some clean glass on there. I don't know, that metaphor kind of broke down a little there, but
no, I think that's brilliant. Yeah. Actually, we had riots here. It was when David Cameron was Prime Minister, and actually afterwards he put in a really good plan to try and deal with some of the root causes, which actually a lot of Christian organisations are involved in. But I do remember a lot of people coming in to clean up in the streets afterwards, and that was where you can see God at work outside the church in the world, and it heartens you.
Yeah, it was funny. On about noon on Saturday, our pastor called me and of our church, and he goes, I just had this idea. We should send a whole bunch of people from our church down to clean up. And I said, Kevin, you're too late.
That's it. Yeah.
You're too late. There were so many people cleaning up already that a lot of the people, they couldn't get into a spot to clean because there were too many people already doing it. But I love that there was that organic thing of, you know, and I know it wasn't just Christians or people of God. It was people of every stripe that go, what can I do to help? You know, it was beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm quite influenced by Sam Wells, an English theologian who used to be actually at Duke University in North Carolina, really good guy. And he was saying about this kind of thing, and the Holy Spirit's at work using all sorts of people, not just Christians. And he said often we are humbled by the way he's at work through people other than ourselves. I think that's a pointy question there. So maybe Sam will be watching. No, I think he's above my pay grade, Sam. But but it's absolutely true. And yeah, how about the church? Because I get kind of different signals from American Christians. I get told not
What?
to concern myself with things like this, and everything's fine. And then I get other people like yourself who probably more in line with the way I'm thinking about things.
You want me to give a treatise on the American church?
Well, let's say from your kind of local aspect, because I've been a couple of people have really harped me. The guy talking to you about Demas, whose surname I can't pronounce, an African-American pastor,
Right.
really fine man. And Doug Pagitt, I've been really impressed in the way that Doug Pagitt is getting stuck in and bringing a message of peace and love. Is there a lot of that going on there?
Yeah, and by the way, Doug Pagitt is a friend of mine, and he's here in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
So I'm just down the street a ways. Yeah, there's, America, as we call it, it's the great melting pot. So we're a spiritual melting pot too. And even the Christian church here is very diverse. I mean, should I name names?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, we've got the Jerry Falwell Juniors, and, they're those ultra fundamentalist, I don't know how to reference them to make it make sense over there. But I look at them and I go, I just don't think you're getting it. Because it seems to be about defending our rights, protecting our religious freedom, protecting our borders. It's all about fear and security and taking care of what's ours, defending this privileged space that we've come to as Christians in America, because it has been privileged, and it's starting to shift to be, maybe I shouldn't say this, if some of my local people heard me say this, I think maybe this shift is a good thing, because, I kind of have a feeling that the church is going to do better when we're down here instead of up here. When we have all the power, we seem to misuse it. And that's a human thing. That's not just the church. That's anybody. I mean, look at our president. Did I say that? Yeah. Well, that's another whole discussion we probably shouldn't get into. But the church, but to the good side of it, Simon, there's I think a lot of the church is fed up, and a lot of the church is saying, this isn't right. This is not how Jesus lived. Jesus was not trying to protect his religious freedom. He was trying to love people, tell them the good news, you who is without sin, cast the first stone. I wish I knew what he was drawing in the sand.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think we've got a kind of similar sort of bit of mirror, nothing quite as big as the situation. We've got the same kind of distinctives, but from my humble opinion, I think probably the balance is tipped in favor of the people who're saying, well, let's get back to what Jesus is saying. And I'm quite encouraged over here how people are taking these things seriously, and in this COVID crisis are getting involved in their communities. So that's an encouragement. But I think we can identify with what you're saying there.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I'm as optimistic as you are. Because there's just such a huge part of the American church that seems to be operating out of fear. But like you said, I do see I do see a switch happening, and
Mm,
maybe George Floyd and some of these other things, and maybe the pandemic,
mm,
maybe all of these things, they're horrible, terrible things,
mm,
but maybe they're shaking us
mm,
up a little bit and saying, wake up, you
mm,
know, you need to wake up.
mm,
Um, and
mm.
that's my hope. That's my prayer.
Yeah.
That's what maybe I'll
Mm,
go down to 38th in Chicago later today, and
mm,
I'll say that prayer for our church,
mm, mm.
the church.
Yeah. So, what can we in the UK learn from what's going on there? Because they do say that there used to be this old saying that when Washington sneezes, London catches a cold. And I make no political analogy on that, but just thinking about the influence from yours to us.
I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think the influence is going the other way too.
Mm,
Uh, I don't know. Simon, I wish I knew. I don't know. I there are times when I just look at what's happening and I go, I'm not one of those who goes, "Come quickly, Lord Jesus," because I kind of feel like we're here to do the work. We're here to bring the kingdom now, not escape to it later.
mm,
My dad, when I was with my dad when he was on his deathbed, 93 years old, and he looked at me and he said, I'm ready to go, but he goes, I don't know what it's going to be like there. I know what it's like here. I have you, my family. He goes, I just as soon stay here as long as I can. because I have forever to be there. I just as soon
yeah.
stay here as long as I can. Um, I I think sometimes the Christian church gets too looking down the road, and we go, we should be creating the kingdom here and
Mm,
now, you
yeah.
know.
Mm,
And how do we do that? Love the Lord our God with all our, and love your neighbor as yourself.
mm,
When they ask Jesus, what's the greatest thing? He goes, two things. It's pretty much
mm,
it,
mm,
It's not complicated.
mm,
If uh, if Christ followers on your side of the pond and our side of the pond actually started doing those two things and put all the periphery aside, I think there would be a revolution.
mm,
I don't think people know that Jesus in our culture. I think
mm,
in American culture, I think they look at Jesus and go, well, he's white, he's Republican, he's a capitalist, he's anti, it's like there's all these things.
mm.
They're all political statements, and I read the Gospels and I go, where are those political statements exactly?
Mm,
I don't know.
mm,
That's,
mm,
I'm not pitching my book, uh, my novel, but that's what I tried to do in my novel about Jesus was our culture. I don't think our culture has walked away from Jesus. They've walked away from the caricature of Jesus.
mm,
I think I think your culture and our culture, if they saw the real Jesus and
mm,
met him, they would be drawn to him, just like the prostitutes and the tax collectors. The
mm,
rabble of the society were drawn to him.
mm.
I think that's the same thing that would happen now
Yeah. Mm,
if they met that Jesus.
mm. Do pitch your book. It's a great book. I gave it an endorsement. I was hoping that Alice Cooper would be on there as well. I was telling my son I'm going to be endorsing the same book as Alice Cooper, but so he hasn't done it yet, though, has he?
I haven't asked. Maybe I should.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned Alice Cooper might do it. So yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
tell him that I asked if he could do it. Yeah.
Are you like this with Alice?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you actually a story about Alice Cooper. Is a friend of mine who's an actor in Nottingham. There's like two theatres in one. So you got the Royal Concert Hall and the Royal Theatre, and he was playing a role in the Royal Theatre. And Alice Cooper was on in the concert hall. Somehow he got lost. The crowd were like all getting hyped up for Alice to come out, and my friend just stood there in front of all these Alice Cooper fans and went, "Oh, hello," and ran off again. They thought it was hilarious, but I can imagine that if you're watching, it's you, David Streams. Yeah, he's a great guy, and I can imagine he made it a real fun moment. But it's one of those stories we all dine out on.
Yeah. Can I tell you the TV commercial that I did with Alice Cooper? So
yeah.
So it was for Musicland, Sam Goody. This was a big chain of record stores and stuff across the U.S. And in this TV commercial, there's a party bus, and it's just it's the music and people are dancing, and there's mixed guys on the bus, and it's like a party. And all of a sudden, gets toward the end of the commercial, and some guy goes, "Hey, who's driving this bus?" And it zooms in on Alice Cooper, and he goes, "School's out, kids."
I think there was an English version of that as well. I think we had it over here. Yeah.
Oh, you might have. I don't know. But I just thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah. So
Not sure what that has to do with the church, but
no. Well, my church, they'll be mostly watching, and they do know I go down rabbit holes quite a lot, especially if I get onto music. I can bore for England on music, so yeah. That's okay. They'll be used to it.
You talk about yes on your show all the time.
Yeah. They in fact, yeah. I think they feel like they know yes really well. Yeah. I try and sneak in a sermon title that's akin to a Yes song or a Yes album sometimes to see if they'll spot it. So going back to what we were talking about, how can we be praying for you?
Well, for me specifically.
Yeah, for you and the guys in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I mean, for me specifically, I really want to get the story. It's not the alternate. I'm calling it the alternate story of Jesus out there, because I really do think our culture doesn't know the Jesus. And in my novel, I'm trying to introduce our culture to that Jesus. So that's something you could be praying about. Christian, it's my novel's a little graphic, and it has language in it because it's a current day version, and these are some tough characters, and I thought I'm not going to create artificial characters here. So Christian publishers don't want to touch it, and it's too graphic for Christian publishers. It's too Christian for secular publishers. So nobody wants to touch it, but that's life. So maybe you can pray that I could find a way to tell the story that I'm trying to tell so that people will hear it. And for the broader church in Minneapolis, pray that the church steps up, and the white church steps up and uses their voice. So many of the churches over here, the pastors say, we're going to stay out of politics, and I'm going, but when politics impact people and the least of these, don't we have to be engaged? And I'm not saying, picking a party. I'm saying picking issues that impact the least of these. So pray for the American church, and pray that I will not lose hope in the American church.